Welcome to Black Expat Stories, the show where we dive deep into the experiences of Black people across the diaspora who have boldly decided to immigrate abroad in search of a better life. I'm your host, Courtney Bowden, and I'm a Black American writer who also took the leap of faith and moved overseas. Coming to you once again from my home in Playa del Carmen, Mexico. Today, I'm in conversation with Sandra Morno. She's a globe-trotting U.S. tax strategist helping expat entrepreneurs take the anxiety out of tax time while optimizing their finances so they can continue living their best lives abroad. From her home base in Buenos Aires, Argentina, Sandra shares the details of her blaxit journey, and she's also spilling secrets on how expats and digital nomads can legally reduce their tax burden. Get ready for tax wisdom that will completely shift your mindset around money, and if you're pondering it, your move abroad. With over 2 decades of experience helping six-figure entrepreneurs, Sandra shares her hard-won lessons. This is one episode where you might want to take notes. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Sandra Morno. Hey, Sandra, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So I always like to ask my guest what inspired you or motivated you to start your expat journey?
I am originally from Miami, Florida, and I guess it was 2018. I was living in Houston, Texas, and I just felt like it was time for me to leave the United States. And it was just a really weird time in my life. And so I was asking like my military friends, like, where's it safe for a Black woman to go? And they were telling me not the places not to go. And in that year, I was just like, you know what? I think I'm going to go to Thailand. But God had some other things in store for me that year. So I actually ended up getting sick, and that didn't happen. I had to move back to Miami. So my plans to move were put on hold.
Moved to Thailand, did not happen, but eventually you ended up in Argentina. So talk to me about how you got there. I know that there were a few more places that you tried on for size before you landed there.
It's so funny. I was in Medellin. I had been there for about 5 or 6 months, and we just kept running into people who had just come from Argentina. They're just like, "Oh my God, you're gonna love it! The weather, the people, the food, the cost of living." And so I really had, being a nomad, I really had no plans. So I was just like, "Oh, all right, let's try Buenos Aires and see what it's like." Because initially, my plan was to be 5 hours or less away from my mom and my sister if something should happen. But I was just like, you know what? If Argentina's worth it, then whew, that 10 hours, I'll suck it up and I'll make Argentina or make Argentina home. I am going to hit 3 months in a couple of days, and it's been okay so far. I like it.
Interesting. I know that a lot of people who are watching or listening are also planning their own international move. And alongside or along with those plans, folks have some things that they have to consider. You mentioned wanting to only be a certain distance away from your family. So, how did you set up your life to where you were able to swing making an international move?
Ooh, the first thing I had to do was downsize. You never realize how much stuff you have until it's time for you to like make a move. So it all started when I left Houston. I had a 2 bedroom apartment, so I had to downsize that, and then was staying with my sister, so I had to downsize again, and I just kept downsizing to the point I still have a good amount of stuff, but it's I don't want to call it crap, but it's stuff that like if I haven't seen in about a year, then I really don't need it. So I'm still figuring that part out. So I think downsizing is important. You need to look at the cost of living of where you're going and also how far it is, because if it's further, that means the ticket is a lot more. Perfect example, my sister was just like, I'm going to come visit you in Argentina. And then she saw the price of the ticket and she was just like, yeah, no, I can't swing $2,000 for a round trip ticket. And I can't blame her. As opposed when I was in Medellin, it was probably like $500 or $600 round trip. So much more feasible. So I think you have to think about the distance. You have to think about the language barrier. Are you willing to learn Spanish? Being from Miami, I have a little bit of background since I was surrounded by Cubans, so I can get by. But that's a huge thing. Learning the language, learning the lay of the land, and doing the research because traveling is changing so much, visa requirements, cost of living, cost of food, just it's a lot. It's a lot to keep up with. So you definitely have to do that research and figure out what it is you really want in a place. And no place is going to be perfect, but you're going to get that 8 out of 10 and make it work.
That's the resounding theme that I'm hearing from all the expats that I talk to is find a place that has the majority of the things that you want and need, because even your home base doesn't have everything that you want. So we have
Exactly.
to level set our expectations. So, career wise, how were you able to set up yourself professionally to be able to work from anywhere?
So I've been doing what I've been doing since 2009. And it started off just as a seasonal job, right? So I would work about 6 months and be not in Florida for the other 6 months. So it started that way. And then when I branched out on my own in 2013, I was in Houston. I was seeing clients, all the clients that wanted to see me face to face. Honestly, for me, it gave me anxiety. Someone sitting across from me, just looking at me for 2 hours. So in 2017, I went virtual with my tax business. I let the clients know, hey, this is easier for us. We can communicate, we can text, there are phone calls. You don't have to sit in front of me for 2 hours. And thank God for technology. So that led the way for me to do this virtually. And so when COVID hit and everyone else was freaking out, I was just like, man, I haven't seen a client in 3 years. So it's nothing for me. And I could be anywhere in the world and still do it. As long as I have good, stable Wi Fi, I have my secure portals, my clients can reach me via email or text, then I was good to go. To them, it didn't matter where I was as long as I got the work done.
And it seems like technology has really untethered so many of us from offices, from in person, brick and mortar interactions,
Yeah.
and given us the opportunity to live this life. So I think that's incredible.
Thank you.
I want to go back to your experience in Buenos Aires. What do you love about living there? I know you mentioned in a previous conversation that you're getting ready to make another move, but I know what drew you there, but what do you enjoy about that place?
Right.
Because where I'm at, your neighbors could be blasting
Right.
mariachi music right across the way. And it's just a way of life. And it
Yeah.
lets you know that it's a vibrant and thriving place.
Right.
So, how did your friends and family react when you first told them that you were moving abroad?
So my sister's like my ride or die. So she's the first one that knew. And she was like, okay, yeah, just let me know where you at so I can come visit. So she had her selfish reasons for being on board. And honestly, I didn't tell many people. I told people who I know, like in my heart, would be like, go for it, try this out. Like one of my really good friends, she's a flight attendant. She's the one that was just like, get your feet wet, try it, because I think you're gonna love it. And so I always give her that credit for getting me started on this journey. My mom is slowly catching up because she knows how I am. I don't like to stay in one place for a long time. And so now she's just, okay, just take care of yourself. And she'd be asking like the weirdest questions, like, what about your doctor and your medicine? I'm like, Mom, there are doctors everywhere. Matter of fact, the service is probably better here than it is in the United States. So she's okay with it now. She's gotten used to it. But honestly, only a handful of people know that I'm doing this because I don't want to hear any naysayers. When I first started my journey, I was telling people and they all had something to say. And I'm like, have you been there or are you going by the
Mm.
news? Okay, yeah, you ain't been there. So I'm not going to even listen to you. So I stopped talking to them about that part of my life. So when they ask me where I'm at, I tell them and I keep it moving. I don't really try to go into any deep conversation with them about that.
Yeah. And sometimes it is unfortunate with some of the connections that we have, how that conversation can devolve into a lot of fear mongering, a lot of what ifs. And one of the reasons why Black expat stories exists is to debunk a lot of these myths about places outside of the United States, because the media, the mainstream media there, does a great job of scaring people into thinking that certain places, especially when we're talking about Latin America, are
Right.
dangerous or more dangerous than where you might be based in the States. And my husband and I, we did the same thing. We moved in silence. Only our immediate family and close friends knew that we were making a move. And it was a year before folks actually knew that we left the United States and we were here in
Oh,
Mexico for those
wow.
very same reasons.
Wow, that's crazy. But you have to
Yeah.
do that, right? You got to protect your peace. Like, I'm all about that these days.
Yes, that's a fact. And I think that eventually, as the narrative starts to shift and as more of us start to become more visible, hopefully those conversations will start to change and people will start to become more curious as opposed to judgmental.
Yeah. Yep.
So, what were some of the early challenges that you faced when you first embarked on your expat journey?
I don't think I didn't do enough research for sure. I'm one of those people that likes to just dive into things, and you can't do that when traveling abroad, especially alone. So I didn't do enough research. I did connect myself into different groups, but like, I'm the type of person I just need 1 or 2 people. I don't need a lot of people. So that was hard, right? That was challenging finding someone who's on that same who has that same mindset as me and a little bit closer to my age because we travel differently. Like, I'm not trying to bop around every month somewhere. I don't just have a book bag. I got my whole life with me. There's a different level of person that I needed to find. And so for me, I think I didn't do enough research. I didn't really find out like what the food was like, what the cost of living was like. I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, let me just go there and check it out for a month and learn the hard way. I mean, to each his own, right?
And in some ways, it makes your experience richer, I would
Yeah,
say. And because you are embarking on this journey by yourself, you don't have anybody else to run decisions by. You don't have to
right.
convince anybody of anything. I think that's one of the
Yeah.
benefits of solo travel. So,
Yeah.
what unexpected ways have you been able to immerse yourself in the culture there? And how have you been able to make friends and connections?
So the good thing about it, there are so many like nomad groups on WhatsApp. It's hard to keep up with. I'm in one that has a spinoff about 5 or 6 of them. So they're constantly having events, and I appreciate that. So for me, that's how I've been able to meet people that don't look like me. And I force myself to get out and just start speaking. If I'm at a restaurant, I'm speaking in Spanish or I'm asking questions. Because one thing I've noticed about Latin America, if you're trying, they're like, "Oh, okay, I see that she's trying."
That's very
Argentina's a little
true.
different, but because they talk differently on some words, and I'm like, "Lady, you knew what I meant." Like you didn't have to correct me. So that's what I've been doing. And there's another lady that I met in Medellin. So we're out and about a lot. Like she's out way more than me because I still have a job. As we're out, we're practicing. We're talking to each other. Some days we're out in the streets, we're like, okay, we're only going to speak Spanish, right? So they don't know that we're from America. So I'm constantly trying to put in more work with my Spanish and meeting other people from other countries and other nationalities as well.
What is the makeup of Buenos Aires? Is it diverse? Is it like a melting pot?
Let's see. So there actually it's not a lot of people that look like us, but perfect example, I went to a Haitian restaurant the other day and she came from Haiti 12 years ago. So she speaks Creole, French, and Spanish. And I was just like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. So there's a Haitian population somewhere here. I'm not sure where. There's a lot of Colombians. There are a lot of people from Peru. And then you have the Argentinians. But yeah, it's mainly white. Like I guess you would say.
Okay. Okay. So, what does the Black expat community look like there? Is there a community of folks that look like us, or is it pockets of places that you found?
It's so I'm in 2 WhatsApp groups, right? So there's one, it's called Sisters in BA, and then just Black Americans or Blacks in BA. I don't know. So there's a good amount of us, but oddly enough, it's not that active. The WhatsApp group is there for questions and stuff, but like doing things together, they don't they don't really do much. And I think it's because most of them actually live here. And the WhatsApp group is just a safe space for you to land if you have questions. And for me, it's so different because when I was in Colombia, every other day something was going on. It
Yeah.
was just like, come support me here. Let's do this. Someone's DJing here. So it's so totally different. And for me, it's made me learn that I need an active community because if something should happen, I need them to know that I'm here or I need to meet people more often. It's been me, I don't want to say forcing myself on people, but hey girl, let's meet up for coffee so I know who you are, I know your story. I want to know why you're here in Buenos Aires. It's been hard to do that here.
Okay. Okay. And in some places, it's like that, right? Here in
Hmm.
Playa del Carmen, it's similar to how you describe Medellin. There's
Yeah.
always something going on. The community is very active and vibrant. But for other people, Buenos Aires might be a fit because
Right.
some people might want to say, you know what, I kind of want to unplug. When you first leave
Yeah.
the States, I'll speak for myself. When I first left, there was a period of about 6 months where I was just like, just trying to find my footing. And I
Okay.
wasn't very social. We were just trying to figure out how to pay our electricity bill, where were the grocery stores, and
Right.
finding our way around. And then when we emerged, there was a community there. But in some places, you are able to be a little bit more anonymous. But I'm with you. It's good to have some connection to folks when you're so far away from your home base or from
Right.
people that you're more familiar with. So, you are a tax strategist. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show is because it is tax season. It's about to be
Yeah.
tax season.
Yeah. Monday.
For those of us, for those who aren't the procrastinators. And that's why I wanted to catch you right now in this window, because I know it's about to get crazy with folks trying to vie for your attention and your support. And as an expat, understanding my tax obligations and just the different things that are available to me as a U.S. tax-paying citizen was a
Hmm.
bit daunting. I'm not going to
Yeah.
lie. And then
Yeah.
there are some folks who are watching and listening who may be expats who say, you know what, I left the States and I left my taxes there too. There's some folks which
Oh
I know that makes you cringe, but it's the
no.
reality, right? I'm sure
I
you've
know. I
encountered
know.
folks like that. But
Oh,
I don't
dear.
want to leave our viewers and listeners hanging. Black Expat Stories is a resource, and it is important for us to have these conversations. And
Yeah.
social media just doesn't do it. It doesn't do it.
Oh,
A lot of people
girl.
are talking about the cost of living and how much they're able to save, but we also have to understand and make sure that our tax obligations are fulfilled. Okay. You don't want to mess with the IRS, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
can you talk to me about what types of clients you work with? What types of businesses do you enjoy supporting the most?
So my ideal client, I think my avatar is me, right? So it's a woman living or traveling abroad that has a business based in the United States, right? US citizen. And it's someone who's, I would say, as a business owner, once you hit six figures, things change. Because you're just like, wait, what? Why do I owe this? And a lot of people don't understand why. And then as an expat, like you said, there's some other credits and things that we can use to help bring down that liability that a lot of people don't know about. Like the FEIE is it's like a godsend for a lot of people if they know how to use it. And that's the foreign earned income exclusion, right?
Yes.
If you have W-2 income, you can write off up to $120,000. If you're self-employed, it's a little different, but it does save you on income tax, but not self-employment tax, which can get confusing, which is why I tell people, please get some help. Don't do TurboTax. Get you some help. Pay for it. It's worth it. Okay. And the types of businesses I like to work with, like business coaches, marketers, attorneys, creatives, because I think those people know how to stay in their lane. It's just like me, right? I'm not a huge marketer, right? I'm not gonna try to do your job. I'd rather outsource you because I don't have time to learn that. So I that market because they're open to learning. Physicians, therapists, they're just like, no, I don't do this. You can you can take care of this and I'm trusting you with that.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right about the different credits that lower your liability. I say this all the time that for a lot of us, moving abroad is a wealth building strategy.
It is.
And if you know about how the wealthy operate with the taxes, that's
Mhm.
how they often keep their wealth. So,
Right.
what is one piece of tax advice that every US expat or aspiring expat should know?
I think just as an entrepreneur or self-employed person, the most important thing is keeping track of your income and expenses. I cannot stress that enough. I know it may sound very simple or mundane, but you'll be surprised how many people I meet and I'm just like, okay, give me your books. Let me look at your income statement, your profit and loss. And they look at me like a deer in headlights. And I'm like, how do you keep track of your income and your expenses? They're like, oh, it's in PayPal. Okay, what about your expenses? I don't know. It's between my business and my personal account. So it's just, I cringe a little bit because I'm like, oh my gosh. So you have no idea where you stand financially as a business owner, right? You could be in the hole or you could have a net income of like $80,000 and now you're going to owe the IRS tons of money. That is the basic foundation, right? Having your books up to date, using some type of an accounting software, Excel sheet, something to keep track of your income and expenses.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is an important conversation to have too, because a lot of us who are entrepreneurs, self included or self employed, being able to live the expat lifestyle is dependent upon whether we do have the revenue and the income. And
Right.
so your taxes and your tax situation is hugely important for that. Hey, friends, I want to take a quick moment to let you know that if you want to dive deeper and unlock more advice and insights on expat life, then I encourage you to become a friend of the show. You'll also access other behind the scenes and bonus content you won't see anywhere else. Just head over to blackexpatstories.com/support to upgrade your access. Now, back to the show. What's a common tax myth that you often have to debunk with your clients?
For expats, it's
Yeah.
you already mentioned it. They're just like, oh, I don't need to file. And I was like, as long as you are a U.S. citizen, you need to file some taxes. And don't be like, I'm just going to renounce my citizenship. Never. You never do that. You always keep that U.S. citizenship because it's worth a lot in these other countries. And you just don't want to deal with the repercussions of that. But I think
Mm.
people think they don't have to file. Like honestly, and this last year, I've met people who haven't filed 3 to 5 years, and they're just like, I'm like, okay, so you're just giving them money, right? Because there's a chance that you can get back all of what you withheld, and now you've let the time pass, and now you just gave them $3,000, $4,000 because you didn't file or you didn't think you needed to file.
What, in your professional opinion, keeps so many people from filing their taxes? Is it the fear of the unknown? Is it the intimidation factor of not understanding how to file and not knowing, who to go to for support? What is it that keeps so many people so behind on their taxes?
It's all of that. It's the lack of guidance, right? And you, what you don't know, you don't know, right? So people are just thinking, okay, I don't need to file, and no one's telling them something else, right? They're not getting the right type of help. And that is huge as an expat because your taxes are a little different and then you're a business owner. I am an advocate of people finding a tax expert or a tax professional, someone who goes beyond just filing your taxes between January to April. You need year round help because as much as you bop around or wherever you live, that person needs to make sure that you're in a territory where you could take advantage, still take advantage of those tax deductions. And then the last one is just the fear of the IRS. So many people are like, oh my gosh, I'm trying to stay under the radar. I was just like, that's impossible with them. But good luck. Let me know how that goes.
Because given the power of technology, we're being tracked. Okay. They can reach out and touch you if they wanted to, I believe. So these are all great insights. And I hope those that are watching and listening are taking notes because, again, by the time this episode comes out, it will be closer to tax time. And I don't want you to go another year, if you're one of those expats that Sandra's talking about who hasn't filed in a while, without
Island.
addressing your tax situation. And
Yes.
so, Sandra, what resources do you recommend for expats to educate themselves on their specific tax liabilities if they are US citizens? And what about those who might be in other countries, who might be looking for residency, citizenship, maybe starting businesses? Because I often talk to expats who start businesses in these countries.
because everyone's tax situation is so different. The main place to go if you're a US citizen and you're living abroad is the IRS website. Get it from the horse's mouth because it's like you said, you got social media telling you one thing, TikTok telling you another, and some random Joe telling you something else. Go to the IRS website, call the IRS. Honestly, don't be afraid to ask them questions. That's what they're there for, believe it or not. I know a lot of people are afraid of them, but call them and ask them questions. They'll send you to a form or a web page or something where you can get the help. And if you're starting businesses in another country, you need to find a person that can help you specifically with that. Like for me, I don't dive into people who start businesses in other countries. I'm only about US based, right, businesses because I don't want to learn anyone else's tax code. I have enough issues just with ours. So there are a lot of professionals out there. Like I know quite a few that focus on foreign US citizens starting foreign businesses in another country, still having one in the US. Just find the right person that can help you and make sure that they're able to help you all year long and not just during tax filing.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm sure so many people are going to find that helpful. Now, I want to talk about the blaxit movement, what I love to call the next great migration. There are so many of us who have decided to leave the United States and countries like Britain, Canada, and others. What is your favorite part about expathood?
I I love being in a new culture and meeting new people that are like me. Like it's I can't remember what it was when I was in Merida, Mexico. It was so funny. Like the city is not that big, right? So you're walking down the street and you see someone else that looks like you. Like we got excited. I was just like, oh my God, I'm not alone on this journey. So that just brought me so much joy. And, from that trip, there are women that I still connect with to this day. And that was like 2.5 years ago. So I love meeting other people that are on the journey that look like me. And I like being in Latin America because it allows me to practice my little Spanglish and I'm getting a little bit better with that and learning the culture, learning how they do things, learning how they eat dinner at 10 o'clock. And I'm like, okay, that's different. I guess. So it's interesting learning how they do things. Like here in Argentina, I believe they have a 2 hour siesta, and I was just like,
Mhm.
oh, okay, that explains why y'all eat so late because y'all sleep in the middle of the day. That's not something we do in the U.S. Like we just work through and be done about five to seven, and that's it. So I'm enjoying learning how people outside of the U.S. live.
That's great to hear. Now, Sandra, some see the Black as a temporary reaction to racism and brutality in America recently. Others see it as a more permanent migration. What's your take?
Oh, it's a permanent thing. Yes, racism has an issue, has something to do with it, all the violence. But when I first started this journey, the women that I was meeting was just like, I just want peace. I want to feel free and I want to feel safe. You know what I mean? And that's only as the US is getting so expensive to live, people are just trying to find that balance, right? They don't want to just work until they die pretty much and just barely making it. They want their dollars to stretch. They want to have a work life balance. So I think a lot of people are searching for that. There's so many women that are leaving corporate America that are just like, I'm done with this. I'm ready to live my life.
Yeah. And as we've seen in the headlines recently, all of the microaggressions and outright bullying that Black women
Crazy.
specifically have suffered in academic spaces, in corporate spaces. I am not at all surprised that so many of us have decided to really divest and say, you know what? I'm prioritizing my peace.
Yeah.
What other trends are
Yeah.
you noticing with the recent increase in Black folks, Black Americans specifically, moving abroad? And how do you see this Blaxit movement evolving?
I think what I'm noticing now is like there's no age limit, right? People aren't afraid. They're not saying that, hey, I'm too old to do it. They're making it happen. They're figuring out how to get those ducks in a row. If it means that they need to sell stuff. I met a lady that sold her house. It was just, it's going to be my nest egg so I can get up out of here. And she was in her, like, I think late 50s, early 60s. But of course, she's having family members telling her, "Are you sure you want to do this?" So I think now that there's just really no age limit to it, you can't really say who's going to do it and who's not going to do it. I know people who have families like with 3 kids and they're doing it. I feel like when we're set on something, we're going to make it happen and nothing is going to stop us. And a lot of people are like, I might as well try and say that I tried instead of living in that regret.
Yeah, and I love to see it, and I think that's also the power of technology and social media, bringing people together, allowing people to tap into information that otherwise they wouldn't have gotten unless they were on the ground, and that's the
Right.
beauty of platforms like Black Expat Stories and others. Sandra, in what ways can living abroad provide Black expats with wealth building opportunities that may not necessarily be accessible to them in the United States?
Just the cost of living, right? Instead of you paying $2,000 for a 2 bedroom, you might be paying half of that. So hopefully people are wisely using those savings to invest in other opportunities, to start a business, to just find ways to make that money multiply in a way that wouldn't be possible in the United States. And also, depending on what type of nomad you are, if it's remote work or not, think about getting your entire withholdings back to you, right? If you withheld $4 or $5,000, like getting all that back, what would you do with it? I'm hoping you won't splurge on it with something that's not necessary, but invest it in something. Buy a property, build a property, do something that's going to bring you money. And that's what I love about us. Like, we're figuring out ways to create different sources of income. I know a lady who just built like a 10-unit apartment in Oaxaca. And I'm just like, wow, I want to be like you. So there's so many ways to make this the quote unquote American dream, but not in the United States. So
Right.
I'm hoping that people just use their money wisely.
Yeah. I saw somewhere that somebody said the American dream is actually to leave.
Yeah, I believe it.
And if yeah, like I was like, oh, that hits because true, at least for me. Sandra, thank you so much for sharing all of these insights. Again, I think that when we talk about this expat lifestyle, you can't not talk about money matters. And so many people ask me and others that I talk to, how are you able to live abroad and what ways can we do it too? And I think that one way you can do that is by making sure that your tax situation is buttoned up, right? Because
Yeah,
the worst thing, I think, or the worst feeling is to leave one space with your business undone and move to another space because a lot of people who embark on this journey honestly are running from a lot of things, and it doesn't matter where you go. You can go to the ends of the earth. Wherever you go, there you are. So any final words of advice for those who are considering a move abroad?
I would say just do it. Don't overthink it. I know we are so good in thinking ourselves out of something. Like, just start off small. It doesn't have to be a month, it doesn't have to be a big move. Go for a week. See if you like it, because you may not like it. But at least you can say you tried, you made that effort, and you can always go back home. That's one of the things like I stand on. If I fail, I can go back home. And trust me, they will all be happy that I'm back home. But I'm like, nah, I'm just regrouping so I can get back out. But at least I can say I tried it.
That's right. That's right. Where do you see yourself headed next? I know you said somewhere else in Argentina, but because you're more nomadic, I always love to hear about where you plan on hopping around to.
I'm actually going to Mendoza, which is about a 3 hour flight away from here. It's the wine country, as they call it, and I am a wino, so I'm excited about that. It's a little bit more relaxed, quiet, mountainous. I decided this year I was really going to seek out more peace, and so for the next 2 months, I'm going to be there, and I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the slow pacedness of it all because Argentina is a little loud for me. There's a lot going on. Right now,
Yeah,
there's someone yelling on a microphone. I don't know if you can hear that, but
I
I
heard.
am just ready. Okay. I'm just like, what are you saying, sir? But yeah, hopefully that will not be the case in Mendoza.
Well, I wish you all the best as you journey to Mendoza. Enjoy that wine country. And before we get out of here, where can our viewers and listeners connect with you and learn more about you as a tax strategist?
The easiest place to find me is on LinkedIn. I'm the only Sandra Morno on there. So you can connect with me there, and then you can find information about my website or DM me if you have some questions. That's the easiest place to find me.
Great. Thanks again, Sandra.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening and watching as we continue exploring the journeys of Black expats finding freedom, healing, and belonging across the globe. Are you feeling inspired to embark on your own expat journey? Hit subscribe to join the conversation and follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Black Expat Stories for sneak peeks and more expat insights. Now, if these conversations resonate and you want to help this platform grow, then I encourage you to become a friend of the show. Not only will you enjoy early ad-free access to new episodes, exclusive bonus content, and behind-the-scenes glimpses, you'll also be supporting our mission to amplify the voices of the pioneers at the vanguard of the next great migration. Just head to blackexpatstories.com/support to join our growing community. However you choose to connect, keep your passport ready and your dreams without borders. Until next time, I wish you peace, love, and passport stamps.